All three phases of the Miami Dolphins football team contributed in some way, shape, or form to a 29-17 victory over the San Francisco 49ers for the Dolphins' home finale this season. Don't look now, but the Dolphins are in the hunt.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It's a Club Dub episode of Locked On Dolphins here on Sunday, December 22nd, Monday, December 23rd. I want to give a special shout out and welcome to our everydayers here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, and the NFL draft lead for the 33rd team. It is your team every day. We don't just say it. We live it here on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by FanDuel. You could start the Week 17 slate with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $250 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's get started on a Club Dub episode of Locked On Dolphins. My favorite thing, Club Dub. And I do like winning. I will not apologize for liking winning games, regardless of what the playoff probabilities are, or being stuck in purgatory, or that's so Dolphins, or all that stuff. I don't care. Dolphins won a football game against the San Francisco 49ers, and I think that's pretty neat. I think that's pretty swell. Now, was it pretty all the time? No. Was it the most complete or dominating performance that you saw from the Dolphins this season in any phase of the game? No. Were there promising changes made on the offensive line that spurred the team to run for what felt like 3 games worth of rushing yards in one game and a home run hitting touchdown to seal the football game, even though DeVon Achane probably could have gone down in bounds and just iced the game? Yes. Was it cool to see Kader Kohou get an interception in clutch time against Brock Purdy with the 49ers trying to bring this thing back from the brink and set you up to ice the game? Yes. Was it cool to see Tua Tagovailoa lacing some seeds over the field? Some of them caught, some of them not. And bounce back after a tough performance from one of the top 5 EPA pass defenses in the NFL to see him perform the way that he did against another top 5 NFL pass EPA defense? Yes, it was. And that's what we got. There's some good and there's some bad, and all of that coexists in this Dolphins game, just like it coexists in this Dolphins season. And I want to be abundantly clear. I don't think a win in Week 16 against the San Francisco 49ers to push your squad to 7-8 should change anything about the big picture conversations that we've been having over the course of the past several months on the program, because it's still fundamentally flawed football team. There's still warts and blind spots and misevaluations that have put you in a situation where you have to have those honest conversations about the team. None of that changes. But this is also the same team that fired their coach after winning 8 of the last 9 games 3 years ago. I think we can live with going to 7-8 and still have the honest conversation, but that is not what today is for. Today is for talking about 29-17 Dolphins win. Pretty evenly matched from a statistics standpoint in a number of phases in the game. The 49ers helped you out on more than one occasion with some bozo penalties, and I use the word bozo lightly because it's not the first word that comes to mind if I were to describe some of the personal foul penalties and unnecessary roughness penalties the 49ers have, but this is a family-friendly program, so I can't say what the first thing is that comes to my mind if I were to describe the penalties that San Francisco incurred that gave you 15 yards on more than one occasion throughout this football game. Yardage, Dolphins post 381 yards. They pass for 215 yards. They are the 4th team this season to surpass 200 passing yards against the San Francisco 49ers defense. They rush for 166 on 30 attempts, 5.5 yards per carry. And I feel like Chevy Chase in Christmas Vacation. Hallelujah! That's pretty cool. After I didn't realize this, the broadcast told us, the Tony Romo broadcast told us, the past 6 games prior to this performance were the 6 worst games from a rushing perspective in the history of the Miami Dolphins. It's like, man, I watched 2019 happen when Ryan Fitzpatrick led the team in rushing. And Ryan, I'm not throwing you under the bus, brother, but I don't mean for you to catch a body here on the show. But you had a season where Ryan Fitzpatrick led the team in rushing. And the last 6 games are the worst 6-game stretch in the history of your franchise. That is mind-boggling to me. Well, 166 on 30 attempts and several big boy carries and several big boy lanes and several explosive runs and chunk gains and getting knocked back on the line of scrimmage. That'll help. That'll help in a big, big, big way. And obviously the big thing that happened was the predictive thing that we bet on during the Friday show came to light. And Isaiah Wynn did start at guard for the Dolphins. Now, it was Rob Jones at left guard, and it was Isaiah Wynn at right guard. And then you had Kendall Lamb and Terron Armstead back, and those guys made it through the whole game. Helped negate Nick Bosa a great deal. Funny how it looks when it's not Jackson Carman at right tackle. And then they still decided to platoon Isaiah Wynn and Liam Eichenberg throughout stretches of this game. But when Isaiah Wynn was out there, Buddy looked fresh. Buddy looked like he could move. And I'm not saying he's a long-term answer for you at guard because the injury durability history is never going to go away. He's never going to beat the allegations there in that regard, but what his medical rap sheet looks like as an NFL player. But you got 2 games left to play now. Put that man at right guard, ask no questions, and prosper offensively. That's what I say. Because he was getting up on the second level. He was moving some guys. It was nice to not have every positive run that you had come off the left-hand side, because when it was Kendall at right tackle and Liam Eichenberg at right guard, you can never rely on the guys to get movement, never let them stay attached on bodies at the point of attack. Big game for DeVon Achane. He finishes this game with 17 carries for 120 yards and obviously the last touchdown, and he was tied for the team lead in receptions with 6. He led the team in receiving yards with 70 on 7 targets. Obviously, a lot of those are schemed and designed targets. He did have a 20-yard catch down the field. Tyreek Hill's had a quiet season. He got nobody to blame for himself in this one. He got 7 targets, which was tied for the team lead. He caught 3 passes for 29 yards and dropped 2 touchdowns. And I understand the first one, which was an absolutely gorgeous ball thrown by Tua, taking a hit with a pass rusher in his face on a 3rd down. They kick a field goal on that drive. It's gently grazed and tipped from 26 yards out. Diamond Lenore gets a hand on it, or a fingertip on it, I should say. But Tyreek Hill, it still hits him in both hands. And then later in the game, the Dolphins end up settling for another field goal. And Tyreek Hill, they go 3rd and 1 from the 15 and throw an end zone fade. And it goes right between Tyreek Hill's elbows and hits between the 1 and the 0 on his chest with a ball that you couldn't have thrown more perfectly from 15 yards out. 2 touchdowns. He also had an inbreaker that hit him, you guessed it, right in the chest. And like people did the thing with Tyreek last week where they put the big play or the big game Tyreek reel together of all the missed opportunities. He ain't helping himself. And I'll give Tyreek credit for this. After the game was over, when he took up on the podium, he said out loud, as a leader on this team, the vet rest days are adding up. I need to bite the bullet and practice more. I need to get the reps with Tua. And then Tua was asked about it, and Tua's up there. And I guess Jonnu Smith was sitting in the room waiting to do his media availability, and Tua's like, if Tyreek told you that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen. You know, me and Jonnu, you see Jonnu's here in a press conference, and he set a record for single season receptions by a tight end in franchise history. That's the secret sauce, reps. So I'll give Tyreek Hill credit for this. This was an extremely disappointing game for him relative to if you don't drop those 2 balls, you get 2 touchdowns on top of the 1 you already scored. You could have had a hat trick on touchdowns. I know it's been a quiet season. You left at least just on the 2 drop touchdown plays alone, it was 41 yards out on the field. plus the other one, the inbreaker. Who knows how far that one could have gone for? Without Jalen Waddle in the lineup today, this was the prime opportunity for Tyreek to be Tyreek Hill, and we didn't get it. I'll give him credit for owning up and taking the accountability element of that at the podium after the game. And I hope we see Tyreek Hill practice on Wednesday then. If you say Wednesday vet rest days are adding up, I need to get those reps. Okay, practice on Wednesday. Defensively, got some notes, some observations. We're going to get into that next here on this Victory Monday episode of Locked on Dolphins. Make sure that you stick with us. Today's episode of Locked on Dolphins is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love watching the game, you're going to love Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy, whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports. Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks this holiday season. They're giving away more than $30 million in rewards during Pixmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week upcoming, I am side-eyeing Jared Goff. Had another big game against the Bears. Give me more than 230 passing yards for him. And Saquon Barkley with Jalen Hurts leaving that game with a concussion. I will be eyeing Saquon Barkley to have more than 1 touchdown in the Eagles' upcoming game amidst their race to stay for the number 1 seed in the NFC. It's quick, simple, so much fun to challenge yourself and your friends. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. Defensively, the Dolphins hold the 49ers to 7 points in the second half. And we may or may not owe former brand player Ricky Pearsall a Christmas card or a thank you card or whatever. We owe Ricky Pearsall something because he bailed you out. The Dolphins take a 13-10 lead into halftime. They come out, they kick a field goal from 54 yards out after the Dolphins got tagged with another untimely holding penalty. Rob Jones had 2 of them at left guard. He said, oh, cool, you can make a change at right guard, that's cool. Or right guard, that's cool. Watch this. Oh, you got 8 yards on this run. It'd be a real shame if somebody had a holding penalty and killed the whole momentum of a drive. But the one in question here was a 3rd and 4 where Tua hit Tyreek Hill over the middle for 13 yards, but Aaron Brewer got called for a holding penalty. You have to kick a field goal. So you push it to 16-10 to start the second half. And then San Francisco comes out and they did the thing they did all day, which was they got the ball to Deebo Samuel early and often. You did not tackle him well. More on that in just a minute. And they got the ball to George Kittle, who your linebackers could not match up with at all, especially when Jordan Brooks went down. But you had an exchange here where the 49ers get down into the red zone, and there's about 8 minutes left in the third quarter. It's 1st and 10 from the Dolphins' 20. And the 49ers go run for 2 yards, but it's called back because of an illegal formation. And they go incomplete on 1st and 15. Ricky Pearsall was not on the line of scrimmage. So you didn't have the right number of players on the line of scrimmage. So you take a 2-yard gain. It ends up being a net of 7-yard loss. But you get a first down, and then it goes from 2nd and 8 to 2nd and 15 because you incomplete on first down. You get pressure on Brock Purdy. He scrambles, picks up 7 yards. You go back to 3rd and 8. So you go from what would have been 2nd and 8 with a scramble that could have put you at 3rd and 1. You end up being in 3rd and 8. And Brock Purdy completes the pass over the middle, which is one of several to Deebo Samuel that was completed over the middle that you'd have thought the safeties never tackled before in their life. And it started on one of the first plays when Jordan Poyer got ran over by Deebo Samuel. And then Javon Holland had an opportunity, and he missed a tackle, and he pinballed right off of him. But this was, I thought, the most egregious of the Holland misses because you have a chance to collision him and maybe stand him up close to the sticks. It's 3rd and 8 from the 18. And Debo gets down to the 2 because Javon Holland kind of takes an aggressive angle, and then he tries to flash upfield late and chop him down on his thigh pad, and Debo takes it and keeps his balance and bounces off of Javon and goes all the way down to the 2-yard line. What would have set up what you were up 16-10, what would have set up a 1st and goal from the 2 with 6.5 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. But guess what? Ricky Pearsall didn't get on the line of scrimmage again. So it was another illegal formation for the 49ers that took that off the board. That ended up being a 21-yard loss when it's all said and done, because then you go to 3rd and 13 from the 23 and you go incomplete. So you have 4th and 13 from the 23. So Dolphins beneficiary of some mental miscues there. Not to say the Dolphins didn't have their own fair share of mental miscues they incurred right before half. They started at the, let's see, where was it? Was it the touchdown drive that they had when they were down 17-6? Yes. Or 7-6. The 49ers get the ball back up 1 point, and you force a punt. And you're set to you take over on what would have been the 43-yard line off that punt. But Pat McMorris gets called for a holding penalty on the punt and gets you back to the 32. Now, you score a touchdown on that drive, but I mean, it's a big deal that those hidden yards of starting on the minus 43 versus the minus 42 or 32. It's like an 11-yard difference because it's from where you caught the ball, right? So you cannot afford to consistently shoot yourself in the foot like that. And I think the penalties in this, the 49ers didn't help themselves with some silly stuff, but the mental errors side of things was also a fortuitous bounce that you had. And we came into this game saying, hey, football gods, when are you going to throw us a bone? We haven't had any turnovers. And you, once again, had Benito Jones scraping one off the turf for what would have been the play of the year defensively. I don't care what happens the rest of the games that you have left to play. I don't care what happened in the first 14 games you played. If Benito Jones would have caught that ball off his shoelaces without it touching any grass, it's the play of the year defensively. I don't care. Anytime a 340-pound nose tackle gets an interception like that, it's the play of the year. But it was not meant to be, as they discussed and said that he did not gather possession before the ball hit the ground. But you did have success rushing after Brock Purdy. Calais Campbell had a monster hit on Brock Purdy on the game, I won't say game clinching, but like the interception that Kader Kohou did have. That was a very timely play coming out of the 2-minute warning. Excellent pressure there on the interior. The 49ers had Aaron Banks that had gone down, so you took advantage of that matchup a little bit. Obviously, no Trent Williams in this game, but the Dolphins had their fair share of players that they didn't have either, right? And Jordan Brooks gets banged up at this point, so you're out there playing with Duke Riley. He comes back in for the end of game sequence, but Kendall Fuller went down again, and I have to figure out what's going on there. Obviously, Cam Smith's on IR, so it's probably Storm Duck, and I'll tell you right now, you could sign me up for Big Nickel before I would roll out Storm Duck. I would go Kader Kohou and Jalen Ramsey on the outside, and I would go Jordan Poyer, Javon Holland, and Elijah Campbell. And that's the world that I would live in. And it felt like, I don't have the snap counts off the top of my head right now, but it felt like that was something that they leaned a little bit more into in this game. I know they've done it in recent weeks, and Elijah's gotten a little bit more run. That for me is probably your pathway, specifically against, you're going to be going to Cleveland for a chance to get to 500, and you are going to be facing presumably Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback. And to give you an idea how that went for the Browns in this game, they played the Bengals, and the Bengals, I want to make sure I get it right, scoring defense is awful this year. They're allowing 28 points per game, 27.6 to be exact. It's 31st in the NFL in scoring defense. And the Browns with DTR quarterback scored 6. They scored 20 21.5 points less than the Bengals season average. The Browns did with Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback. So you're going to have a chance to climb back to 500 and then play the Jets and see what happens. And do you get the help that you need? Do the Colts lose again? All that stuff. What I do know is Week 17 has historically been very unkind to the Dolphins in recent years. Week 17 in recent years, going back to 2021, that was the year that you played the Titans and got eliminated from the playoff contention. Week 17 last year was the Baltimore Ravens game that you played where you had 56 hung up on you and you lost Bradley Chubb for the rest of the year and effectively all of this year. Although he may play, now that you're not mathematically eliminated, chance of running another week. We'll see what they ultimately do. 2022, Week 17, was the Patriots loss where you had the other injury where Teddy Bridgewater plays and then Skylar Thompson has to come in and throw 21 pass attempts and throws for 100 yards on 21 pass attempts, and you blow that lead. You were up, 14-7 with, and then 14-10 with 17 minutes left in the game. You throw a pick six, and that's how you lose the game. You end up losing the game by 2 points. That was the 2022 Week 17. So those experiences, you have not had a very positive experience in Week 17 in quite some time. What is the last one? 19? 2020. You gave up 56 to Buffalo in Week 17 in 2020. So it's been about 5 years since Week 17 was a good year for the Dolphins. We'll give out some game balls here, and then we'll obviously shift gears. We'll watch the film. We'll look a little bit more in depth into this game and start setting the table for the Browns a little later this week, which is going to be an interesting one because we got the holiday. But that's a problem for me, not a problem for you because it is your team every day. So giving out game balls next here on Locked On Dolphins. Stick with us. NFL playoffs are almost here. Not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet that wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a dub. I love betting which players score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. I hope you had the game total and took the over. My gut instinct said it was going to be an under, and it's a bad beat for you if you bet the under and then DeVon Achane decides to run one in, which he could have just gone down and iced the game. But that's why you play the game, right? So right now, the Dolphins are favored for Week 17 against the Browns for 4 o'clock kick by 5.5 points on FanDuel. So if that tickles your fancy, you can head on over to FanDuel. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com, join today, get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel, never waste a hunch, make every moment more with the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This is tough. I am not looking forward to having to definitively make a game ball declaration. I kind of want to give some love to the offensive line. Yeah, we're going to give our offensive game ball to the offensive line. It's not exactly where you thought we were going to go, was it? But Tua Tagovailoa not sacked. Tua Tagovailoa hit on a handful of occasions, and that was it. Team rushes for 166 yards on 30 attempts. You found a lot more confidence to do it than what you had in the last 6 games combined. That is no small feat. And you played, Nick Bosa had no influence on the football game. The Dolphins ran for more yards than they've ran in the last 3 games combined against the San Francisco 49ers, which was a team, no less, that defensively they'd had their ups and downs on a run defense perspective. Buffalo hit him for 220 in the snow. Green Bay hit him for 169. But they played some good rushing offenses and not yielded yards. And most of the ones that did tag him for yards had quarterbacks that can move. Now, the Rams last week hit him for 142, but they also held him to 160 passing yards. You had 215 passing yards against the 49ers, which was the 4th highest total and the 4th team to surpass 100 on the season, or 200 on the season. So give me the offensive line with Isaiah Wynn stepping in, Terron Armstead and Kendall Lamb coming back. It looks different. I think there's still again, a conversation we have about who the key players are in that unit and what their resumes and track records say you can rely on them for them to be available for. And there's fault to be had there that you're wearing right now, sitting at 7 and 8. Where if you have one bounce of the ball that goes your way in Houston or potentially Arizona or in Buffalo, your season outlook looks very different. But that's not the world you live in. Defensively, man, I really want to give love to Jordan Brooks again for being an absolute warrior of a player. Led the team in tackles, had a sack with a tackle for loss. Chop Robinson had a sack. Zach Sealer had a sack. Calais Campbell had the big hit on the interception that Kader Kohou collected. It certainly felt like Kader Kohou's played some of his best football of the year, and by extension of that, since 2022 as a rookie, the past 2 weeks. So I'll give him an honorable mention and a shout out here. But I'm going to go with Jordan Brooks because he was one of the players that did not stand out to me for missed opportunities as a tackler. And that was the thing that I felt really bit Miami throughout this game with the touchdown drive that they had. San Francisco goes 10 plays, 70 yards, and you just can't tackle Deebo Samuel. I thought Deebo wound the clock back in this game. He caught 7 passes for 96 yards and a score, and he ran the ball 5 times for 25 yards. And if it wasn't for some miscues, he'd have more than that. So credit to Deebo Samuel. Credit not to the Miami Dolphins defense for their tackling effort, but the one guy who I watched and felt in a positive way, and then he leaves with a quad bruise and comes back into the game at the end of the game when you really need it, is Jordan Brooks. That's the kind of stuff that gets you game ball here on Locked On Dolphins. That is going to do it for us here on a Club Dub episode. Kick your feet up. You've almost had as many of these as we've had non-Victory Monday episodes. So happy Victory Monday to all of you. Here's hoping we can get back to an equal number next week against Cleveland. But for now, we're going to enjoy a 29-17 victory over the San Francisco 49ers and then check the tape, see what went right, see what went wrong. That's coming your way in the early portions of this week here on the program. So make sure that you come back and see us again. I'm Kyle Krabs. Keep it locked in right here on Locked On Dolphins. I'm out of here.